Hello everyone and welcome to my video series regarding the Starship Troopers Terran Command Scenario Editor. In this series I will be showing how to use the scenario editor as well as some common trigger use cases to help build your scenarios. Today we will be covering a much requested topic, how to create waves of bugs or an infinite wave of bugs for you Whiskey Outpost enthusiasts. This video will cover setting variables to control how many bugs spawn, set a certain number of waves, and overall make it a hard time for our troopers here. To start, I'm going to create an invasion wave. This is going to be how our bugs are going to be spawning. You can use hives as well, so such as these tunnels here. I'm actually going to go ahead and place one down for this video tutorial here. So, I'm going to go ahead and place down an invasion wave. So, now, in order for the invasion wave to work properly, we're going to have to add some markers to it. So we're going to head over to the environment here, and we're going to search for marker. We're going to select the one with the little flag on it. And then we're going to place about 3 down. This should be good. And then I'm going to select the markers and I can go ahead and attach it. A quick little tip here is to hold down the shift key, and then that will allow you to select multiple and attach multiples all at once. So now that we have our invasion wave with our markers set up, and these markers are actually where the bugs are going to spawn. So to make that a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and place down some decorations, just so that way we can visually see, hey, these are where the bugs are spawning, because these markers are not visible to the player when the mission is loaded. So this is just for visual and just for the tutorial. I don't necessarily recommend having bugs magically spawn out of cacti. So now that we have our setup, we have our invasion direction as well as our bug hive, we're going to go ahead and create some triggers. So I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call this bug attack. Now within this folder, we're going to create several triggers. The first one we're going to create is going to be called setup. This is just what I'm calling it. You can call it settings, you can call it system, whatever works for you. So within this setup folder, I'm going to create a variable. So I'm going to scroll down to the effect called variable set. And then where it says my variable, this is where I'm going to be typing in my variable. Except for 1 or 2 cases, you can name a variable just about anything that you would like. We're actually going to be getting into the one variable you have to get perfectly right, but this one, you can name it whatever you would like. Since we're going to be creating a variable here to to determine how many total waves a attack wave will have, I'm going to call this something simple like total waves or total bug attack. Something simple. You can name it anything you want. The most simplest one for me is going to be total waves, if I can type it correctly. And I'm going to make this equal to 5. So I want 5 waves to attack. Now, for the purposes of demonstration here, I'm going to add a revealer here to the map. That way we can see the bugs spawn and we can see how they behave. So now, because I want this to initialize before the player even loads into the map, I'm going to select initialize. So it will be loaded up and ready to play as soon as the player click here to play, rather than happening about a second after they click play. So it'll be a lot easier, or it'll be a lot smoother for the player. So now that we have our setup complete, let's go ahead and create the trigger that will be handling the actual attack. So I'm going to create this new trigger, and I'm going to call it attack waves. And because I want this to repeat, I'm going to set the trigger interval to -1. Now I'm going to add another variable. This is the variable you have to get right. It's called arachnid_supply. Now this is what handles spawning bugs. Now I'm going to go ahead and add 10 to the variable here. Now, what is very important with the variables here for arachnid supply is that arachnid supply spawns 2.4 arachnids per supply. So, for example, if you add in 5 supply, it is going to spawn in a full 12 bug strong squad of arachnids. So if you were to do 500 supply, that would equal out to 1,200 bugs. So keep in mind on how sensitive the arachnid supply variable can be, and be as conservative as possible. So because I've already gone ahead and I've calculated that a little bit, I can expect about 2 squads of arachnids to spawn in total from my offensive I'm going to be creating here. Now we're actually going to create our variable, not our variable, our effect for an offensive. So I'm going to actually give this offensive a name. So I'm going to call it Attack 1, just for simplicity purposes. Now, I'm going to be going through the rest of these options here as we come across it. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to select where these bugs are going to be spawning from. So we're going to be selecting our bug hive, and then we're going to be selecting our invasion direction. Now, it is going to use these 3 markers to actually spawn the units there. Now, these next 4 options I have not played with very much, so your mileage may vary, and for most cases, select mode all is going to be sufficient for you guys. So the next 2 options here, mark attack wave on minimap, and then share supply across all spawners, is going to be pretty cool for you guys. So mark attack wave on minimap. What that is going to do is it is going to create that little warning symbol on the minimap and track with the attack wave for the bugs to attack. So that's going to be really cool. It's also going to warn the player that an attack wave is coming. If you don't want to warn the player, you don't want to give any sirens, bug attack incoming notifications, you can uncheck this. Share supply across all spawners will share the 10 arachnid supply that we've set up across our different spawners. Now, I've not played with use current available arachnid supply, so I can't necessarily speak towards that. But we are going to be using the use scenario variable here, and we're going to type in arachnid supply. Now, this offensive is going to use the scenario variable for our supply. So you can use duration and spawn interval to kind of change up how the bug wave spawns. You can make them trickle out. You can make them all come out at once. I'm going to make them all come out at once in this instance. So I'm going to be setting them to 0 or leaving them at 0. And now the next part that we have here is how is the invasion going to, or the offensive going to attack the player? So there's 5 different options here. The bottom 2, AI task and none, I have not played with whatsoever, so I cannot speak towards them. However, the top 3 options are going to be your most used cases anyways, so we'll be focusing on those. By default, the invasion wave is set to nearest radio station. So that's what the nearest is there. So nearest radio station, what that does is if the player owns a radio station where you can call in troopers, the attack wave is going to focus and try and attack that nearest, whatever's the nearest station to them. So, but we don't have a radio station on this map in particular. So you can then choose location. I'm actually going to be using this one for this particular scenario. But the other option is unit. So this is a really cool scenario if you want a attack wave to follow a unit, to try and attack a unit. For example, let's say we're escorting Victor Yarrow and you want the attack waves to be attracted to him no matter where he's at on the map. That's how you can do it. Now, where we are going to be using for this particular demonstration, location. I'm going to select location and then select location, and then I'm going to select my location. So now the bugs are going to be attracted to and try and attack that spot. So they're going to pile up on those troopers there. So now our offensive is created. We have to make sure that we have a way of stopping this in this case. So first off, I'm going to add some delays to this. So I'm going to make sure that it doesn't just immediately start spawning. Now keep in mind, it can get very messy if you don't have some sort of stopgap measure or delay in the waves attacking. Because if we didn't put in a timer here, it was just going to keep spawning and spawning and spawning and spawning, and it was going to get very ugly very quickly. So I want to control a little bit how this attack happens. So I'm going to create another variable. So I'm going to call this waves defeated, if I can spell correctly. I'm going to add waves defeated +1. Excuse me, let's actually go ahead and add a offensive strength check. So we're going to grab the offensive ID for our offensive, input it here, and then when that offensive is 0, we've killed all the bugs in that offensive, it's going to then continue with the rest of the trigger. So in this case, it's going to add 1 to waves defeated. We have defeated a wave. And then we're going to cross-reference that, and we're going to do a variable check. We're going to see if waves defeated is equal to total waves. So once waves defeated becomes equal to total waves, which we set to 5 before, it is going to stop this scenario from continuing on. So we have everything all set up. Let's go check it out. All right, so we have our invasion direction here, and we can see the bugs are already starting to spawn here, right on top of the cactuses where the markers are. So we've got an attack wave going there, and then we've got an attack wave coming from there. So we've got 2 full squads coming from the hive and from our invasion direction. And then these guys are just chilling out because they spawned with the hive. Now, as soon as this group of bugs are dead, in about 5 seconds, another wave should spawn. Another wave should spawn if we did things correctly. So let's go and see what we did wrong. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to add a small delay here. Ah, here we go. That's what I did wrong. So if waves defeated is less than the total waves, keep going. So that's what I did wrong here. So what was essentially happening was if waves defeated is equal to 5, keep going. But it was never going to get to 5. So now that we have that fixed, let's go ahead and try again. All right. We should start seeing the bugs spawning here on top of the cactuses here. And then we can see that they're also spawning from right here, and they're already getting going and having some fun.
Bug attack inbound.
All right. So it looks like I messed something up and didn't account for something with the bug hive. So you are going to have to run your own test to make it compatible with bug hives, to make bug hives compatible with invasion waves or invasion directions as a spawning mechanism. And you're also going to want to play around with the arachnid supply variable as well. So since more units are spawning than I was initially intending here. So, but this just goes to show just how powerful the tool is and how you got to be careful with a couple numbers, since changing a 5 to a 10 really does kick things up, especially on later waves here. All right, everyone, that is the essentials to how the scenario editor actually works with creating bug attack waves and making them repeatable. Now, using arachnid supply 10 does cause more bugs to spawn than I was intending. So definitely be careful with playing around with that number there, since using 10 caused a lot of bugs to end up spawning there. So more than the 2 squads that I was intending to go up against these troopers here. So with that all said, I hope this helps you with starting to play and experiment and learn more yourself about how the scenario editor and bug attack waves work. And I will see you all in the next one with the next tutorial video. Catch you later.